My people, we're going to take all the lore submitted, we're going to go through each of them, and then we're going to combine it all. Let's see what we got. Let's start with locations. All right, so we have some lore for the Verdant Easts versus the Verdant Canopy. We got the Tower Settlement. We got House of Tiny Lies, Ancient Tomb, Ancient Tombs. All right, first up, Verdant Easts. So we got some lore for the Verdant Easts and the Verdant Canopies. If I recall, one of the questions, one of the topics was, what's the difference between the Verdant Easts and the Verdant Canopies? Well, Expersproby is going to tell us. Expersproby says, Verdant Easts versus the Verdant Canopy. This species of tree has a divergent evolution. While one has defensive sap and bears no fruit, the other has toxic bark and yields large melons. So he's saying that the trees in the Verdant Easts have toxic bark and yield large melons. The ones in the Verdant Canopies have a defensive sap which bears no fruit at all. Okay. However, these two trees also share a symbiotic relationship. In the warm autumn, wind collects pollen from the Verdant Canopy and carries it to the Verdant Easts, laying the groundwork for new melons next season. Okay. Similarly, melons that ripen to the point of rotting provide a source of food for the wilders, is what he's calling them, who are the manifestations that we discovered in the recent turn, the wild folk, who venture from the canopies to the east each summer to collect and return this food that will sustain them through the winter. Okay. I like it. I like that. Next, we have some Tower Settlement lore. Before the unwriting, Tower Settlement was a bustling center of migrant culture, a place of trade that brought rogue and merchant alike to its bright city, lit even through the night by a bonfire atop the settlement's central tower. Since the unwriting, many family remain lost, but the construction of the Golden Bough on the remains of the Swaying Rogue, the tavern where the artist cast his spell. Oh, we got some lore for the original tavern that was there. Okay. The Swaying Rogue, the tavern where the artist cast his spell, and the reintroduction of the House of Tiny Lies. The settlement seems to be returning to its original purpose. This is true. Okay. Nice little factoid there. We have some lore on the House of Tiny Lies. Before the attack, and this is by Hero Sam 93. The House of Tiny Lies. Before the attack orchestrated by the artist, the Tower Settlement was just another town in the boondocks. Travelers would come and go, with very few residing there long term, using it as a bit of reprieve before they continued with their adventures. This was mostly due to the unsettling presence of the House of Tiny Lies. Ooh. Okay, so the House of Tiny Lies, they were like, let's see what they were like. The House of Tiny Lies is a mysterious guild that was once known for their unique services, making tiny lies to be perceived as truths. Using a variety of tactics from bribery to blackmail, even methods that are a little more hands-on, the House of Tiny Lies was good at what they did. Despite the fact that it was common for a guild to be run by multiple leaders, the only one that was ever seen was the Disagreeable Master. This is because the other leaders required anonymity to go about their day-to-day activities, so they used the Disagreeable Master as a poster child. It is unsure if he holds any actual authority within the guild, but because very few are aware that other leaders exist, he is viewed as a very respectful individual. Wow, I like that. I like that. That's cool. That's cool. And remember, we're going to combine these together. We're going to combine these whatever submitted, we're gonna make a Frankenstein and combine all the submitted lore together to stay within spirit of Peoplz and Dragons, where we combine everybody's action submission into what we get. Okay. All right. The ancient tomb, house of the tomb of the snake, or the tomb of the serpent. Hero Sam says, in the previous lore video, I threw out the idea that the jinn was a former god, surrounded by the warped form of their worshippers. So maybe the ancient tomb was their temple prior to the artist's attack. In the previous lore video, I threw out the idea that the jinn was a former god, okay, surrounded by the warped form of their worshippers, okay? So maybe the ancient tomb was their temple prior to the artist's attack. Okay. So we're playing with the idea that this jinn, it was previously thought or rumored that this jinn was also, it was a theory that this jinn was a jinn before the purge and survived the rewriting. What do we call it? I like that. The unwriting. What did Express Roby say? The unwriting. Okay, so the jinn was a former god surrounded by the warped forms of their worshippers from the previous world, the previous plane, and the temple was their home. Okay, I like that. Temple of the Scale, I believe is what it was called. Yeah, okay. And we have some more lore for the ancient tombs. This Temple of the Snake, submitted by Zahariel UK. And they say the ancient tombs were built by an old king who had angered his god through his barbaric acts. Fearing his punishment in the afterworld, he employed his court mage to craft a resting place no god could touch. The tomb is a funnel, a trap that allows spiritual energy to gather but not pass on. But still water grows stagnant. All manner of ghost or spectral creatures find themselves trapped with only each other to torment or consume. The strongest spirits survive, twisted by their imprisonment into vicious, bitter things. The caveat of the scale of the tomb is by the act of a mortal with a beating heart, a spirit may leave. Oh my gosh, so remember they were lured there. It was kind of like a twofer, because Willem had spirits in his head. So the combined desire for freedom creates an allure for mortals. And when one steps in a strong and prepared spirit, a strong and prepared spirit will eagerly coerce or possess the living to gain freedom. That'll be interesting to see how that combines with Hero Sam's lore submission. All right. And that does it for the lore submissions for locations. Let's see what we have for the manifestations. All right. So we have some lore for the insectoid creature that was discovered inside of the 7-path tunnel. Let's see what we got here. So Gabriel says this entity, this manifestation, is called the Skulker. These blind insectoids rely on echolocation to see and live via the clicking of their piercers. Tendrils coming from their back also act as a form of sight. The true horror behind the Skulker is its method of reproduction, using the tendrils to restrain their victims. A tendril containing an egg will be forcibly lodged inside the victim through the mouth. Upon hatching, 3 to 4 skulklings burrow out of the victim's cavity, killing them. Now, with that said, will any of you dare? I almost feel like I kind of trapped y'all, because I'm definitely adapting that. I'm definitely adapting that if we get any 7-path tunnel action. because I'm pretty sure if there are players that read that and knew that this thing exists, they know it exists, but they didn't know it was that repulsive. Would they have refrained from going to the 7-path tunnel? The 7-path tunnel is only, that dungeon is only 1% cleared. Nazareth found a partial path of the 7 paths. There's several paths. Who knows how large the 7-path tunnel is? That's crazy. The Skulker. That's gross. That's repulsive. I like it. Great job. All right. And what do we have next? Expersproby. He has some lore for the green manifestations, calling them the Verdant Ambushers. Okay, I like that nickname, the Verdant Ambushers. Capable of climbing the impossibly tall trees of the verdant forests to access and hide among the canopy. Verdant ambushers use their natural camouflage to leap from heights and descend on their prey. Though they can be domesticated, verdant stalkers are a danger even to the wilders if they reach adolescence without being tamed. Ooh. So if they reach a certain age without any kind of domestication, they become or are considered verdant stalkers, kind of like untamed, feral verdant ambushers. Ooh, I like that. Oh man, you know what? If there are no wilders, if that's what we're calling them, to tame the green manifestations, would we end up with an imbalance and get a lot of verdant stalkers? That's, Eli's invasion of that location could have triggered a disruption in how things are, and we could end up with a lot of those stalkers. Ooh, verdant ambushers, verdant stalkers. Ooh, okay. I like it. All right. Sproby has some lore for the Wilders, also known as the Wild Ones or the Wild Manifestations or the Treemen. Expersproby says these canopy-dwelling humanoids are a defensive mechanism of the trees in the verdant forest. Wilders are born from sap, which leaks from injured trees. They grow old around the tree, which birthed them. They grow old around the tree that birthed them, consuming the sap of the tree and using its dead. Consuming the sap of the tree and using its dead refuse to build their large canopy dwellings. When a wilder reaches old age, they jump from their canopy home to the forest floor, a seed inside them germinating into the potential for a new tree, which will sprout, grow, and develop its own wilders. That is the kind of spin that I was hoping to see on these creatures to really, really make them more unique. I like that. I look at them totally different now. They're like sproutlings from like Legend of Mana or the Mana series. I like that. The Wilders. Okay. Good one. Ooh, we got somebody building on that, I think. Expersproby goes on to say, I imagine wilders and verdant trees pass on knowledge through the birth of the sap. I don't imagine wilders being anything less than mid-late adolescence. Nothing below 15, 16. Basically, they are born able-bodied. I think the trees can share knowledge as well as through their root system. So what that means to me is that these things are potentially very intelligent from a nature standpoint. Very wise. Okay. I like that. That's good. Zahariel UK has lore for the insectoids. Sound is important to these creatures. With excellent hearing, they seek out beings of flesh to cocoon and digest slowly for themselves and their larvae. It is rumored the Silent Gates exists without sound because below its surface is a massive hive of these creatures. She tied it to the silent gates. Yo, I like that. I like that. That is very, very scary for the silent gates. Yo, what? The silent gates has a hive of skulkers under there? That's crazy. That's crazy. Do they know that? Maybe not everyone knows that. Maybe that's not something you would have told visitors. I don't know. Makes me wonder if the people there know that. What people? She has lore for the green manifestations, which we know we are going to call verdant ambushers. They say another name for them are caterpillars. Like caterpillars. Caterpillars. Undulating creatures in a perpetual larvae stage that only grow with feeding. They grow more legs along their body the older they get, which have sharp hooks to allow them to scurry up trees remarkably quickly. Training and coercion is done through scent, reins dipped in blood. Training and coercion is done through scent. Reins dipped in blood steer them, while a rider wearing a sachet of dried flowers will not be attacked. Okay, so this is this kind of describes it best during their larvae stage of life. And they grow more legs the older they get. Okay. Caterpillars. Caterpillars is a nickname for the green manifestations when they're younger, also known as caterpillars in their larvae stage of life. Okay. And then Zoriel has some lore for the jinn, a type of jinn. Lullaby, a jinn that crossed over to the master plane, drawn to the dreams made by mortals. This energy could be fuel, letting it become more until it was strong enough to subjugate a living host. Its name became synonymous with a chant to induce sleep. Yeah, because it can put you to sleep. With the host body, it can set in motion events to inspire mistrust, division, and fear. Fitful sleep and night terrors in its vicinity increase its power. Ooh. Okay. A little bit more details on this species of jinn, which has a name apparently, and you probably have to have a deep jinn knowledge to even know that this is the lullaby jinn. That'll be interesting to see how that mixes with the aforementioned lore for the jinn. Hero Sam says, gods gain their power through their followers. The more plentiful and devoted their followers are, the stronger they become. I like this concept. Definitely willing to adapt that. But what happened to the gods that didn't have any followers left after the artist's attack? To the ones without an Ovaz or a Maximori, they became jinns. Ooh. Bound to the master plane, they are now cursed to suffer the fate of a jinn. Though they keep some of their power, their appearance transforms to represent their divine domain. The one encountered by Willem and Zanera no doubt taking on the form of a snake to represent their domain of deceit and false assurance. As for their followers, they have been gifted with the highest honor. They must now serve as thralls to their master, bound to their service until the jinn either dismisses them or dies. Ooh, interesting. Right now, in my head, I'm like, jinn to me, and since we're now going really heavy into the jinn stuff, it made me realize that we do want we want to try to come up with original manifestations. And though there's nothing new under the sun, that can change now. It's okay for things to be inspired by some things, but I'm willing to go as far as to changing the name of what we are calling these things. Instead of jinn, let's call it something else. Let's make it up. This is a total fantasy world. Just like how there are technically no dragons, I would prefer to call it something else and make it something else if possible. And it's really hard because it's so comfortable to stay with the Tolkien creature. And it slips every now and then, but if whenever possible and we can catch it, let's catch it and try to get into the habit. So my new lore contest, my new challenge for the audience here is, in the comment section, what can we call these entities that we've been calling jinn? For the sake of being original and trying to get away from things that already exist from a naming perspective, let's come up with a new identity for these beings. I'm loving the idea that they are as so important as to be gods from a previous plane of existence and are now they have no worshippers, so they become these entities. What should we call that? Obviously we can't mix names, but we can have a couple nicknames for it. So go ahead and submit your best names and nicknames for what these things could be called. Even if you want the nickname, one of the nicknames can be Jinn, sure. But what are we going to call these things? All right. So now we're going to take everybody's submission and we are going to combine them into one description for these locations and these entities.
The Verdant Easts and the Verdant Canopies. The Verdant Easts and the Verdant Canopies are two closely connected, yet distinct regions in the expansive forests east and south of the Tower settlement. The Verdant Easts are known for their towering trees with toxic bark, which bear large melons. These melons, once overripe and decaying, provide crucial sustenance to the wilders who journey from the canopies each summer to harvest the rotting fruit, which helps sustain their community through the harsh winter. The trees in the Verdant Easts, while bearing fruit, also secrete a dangerous sap as a defensive measure. In contrast, the Verdant Canopies are home to a species of tree that bears no fruit, but produces defensive sap. During the warm autumn months, pollen from the trees in the canopies is carried by wind to the Verdant Easts, ensuring the continued growth of the melons in the Easts for the next season. Though evolved differently, the trees of both regions are symbiotic, supporting a shared ecosystem that thrives on their cooperation. The wilders, who are born of the trees, living among the canopies, play a pivotal role in maintaining this natural balance. The Tower Settlement. Before the Unwriting, the Tower Settlement was a bustling center of culture and trade. Its iconic tower, crowned with a constant bonfire, attracted travelers from all walks of life. Merchants and rogues alike found refuge in its streets, making it a key location for those seeking opportunity or escape. However, the artist's spell that caused the Unwriting shattered this thriving community, leaving its streets haunted by the echoes of those lost in the cataclysm. Yet, hope remains. The recent construction of the Golden Bough on the ruins of the Swaying Rogue Tavern, where the artist's fateful spell was cast, has rekindled the spirit of the settlement. The re-establishment of the infamous House of Tiny Lies has also drawn renewed attention to Tower Settlement, slowly guiding it back toward its former purpose as a beacon of trade and culture. The House of Tiny Lies. The House of Tiny Lies is a mysterious and influential guild that once held considerable sway over Tower settlement. Known for their ability to turn minor lies into perceived truths, the Guild's methods range from bribery and blackmail to more direct interventions. The Guild is shrouded in secrecy, with multiple leaders operating from the shadows. Only the disagreeable master, their enigmatic public figurehead, is ever seen. Though his true authority remains unknown, the disagreeable master is widely respected and feared, acting as the Guild's representative while the true leaders remain hidden. Despite the Guild's morally ambiguous methods, the House of Tiny Lies plays a critical role in shaping the fortunes of Tower settlement, ensuring that the lines between truth and deception remain blurred in a world reshaped by the unwriting. Temple of the Scale. North of the Silent Gates lies the Temple of the Scale, a place steeped in spiritual dread. The temple was constructed by a king who, fearing divine retribution for his barbaric acts, commissioned his court mage to create a sanctuary where no god could touch him. The temple is a trap for souls, a place where spiritual energy gathers but cannot pass on, leaving the spirits to stagnate and grow twisted over time. Within this temple, spirits endlessly torment one another, locked in a cycle of suffering with no escape unless a living mortal enters. The lure of power tempts many to enter the tomb, unaware that doing so risks possession by one of the powerful, vengeful spirits that dwell within, eager for release into the world of the living. The Skulker. The Skulker is a horrifying entity that haunts the depths of the seven-path tunnels, blind but deadly in its pursuit of life. These insectoid creatures navigate through echolocation, using the clicking of their piercers and tendrils to see. The Skulker's method of reproduction is grotesque, embedding eggs within living victims, which hatch into larvae that tear their way out, killing the host. The Skulker's sharp senses make them relentless hunters, seeking out prey through sound. Though the Silent Gates is known for its eerie silence, some believe the seven-path tunnels may extend beneath the gates, harboring a massive hive of skulkers far below the surface. However, this remains a chilling theory, its truth unconfirmed. Verdant ambushes. High within the towering trees of the verdant canopies dwell the verdant ambushes, camouflaged predators that stalk their prey from above. These creatures blend seamlessly with the dense canopy foliage, waiting patiently to leap from great heights onto their unsuspecting victims below. Known for their lethal precision, verdant ambushes are dangerous even to the wilders who attempt to domesticate them. If left untamed, they mature into verdant stalkers, feral, uncontrollable beasts that can turn on their handlers. In their larval stage, known as caterkillers, these creatures continuously grow, adding more hooked legs to their bodies as they feed, allowing them to climb trees with unnerving speed. Wilders use blood-stained reins and floral sachets to pacify and control them, but even with such precautions, the untamed creatures pose a significant threat to those in the canopies. Wilders. The Wilders are a unique, sap-borne species that reside in the verdant canopies. These humanoids are created from the sap of injured trees, emerging fully formed and with a deep connection to the trees that birthed them. They build their homes high in the canopy, using the refuse of the trees to construct large, communal dwellings. As protectors of the forest, the Wilders spend their lives maintaining the balance between the canopies and the verdant easts. Their life cycle is tied to the trees themselves, When a wilder reaches the end of its life, it hurls itself from the canopy to the forest floor below. Upon their death, a seed within their body begins to germinate, giving rise to a new tree, continuing the eternal cycle of life within the verdant forest. This symbiosis between the wilders and the trees ensures the survival of both species, with knowledge passed through the root systems, linking each generation to the ancient wisdom of the forest. Jinn. The Jinn were once gods, beings of immense power who thrived on the devotion of their followers. However, when the unrighting occurred, many gods were left without worshippers, and those without followers became Jinn. Stripped of much of their divine power, they are now cursed to wander the master plane, clinging to remnants of their former strength. Jinn feed on the emotions of mortals, fear, despair, and unrest. One such Jinn, known as Lullaby, feeds on the dreams of those it encounters, using nightmares to fuel its power. Though Jinn retain traces of their old dominions, their forms have been twisted into monstrous reflections of their past. One Jinn encountered by Willem and Zinhera took the form of a snake, embodying deception and false comfort. Cursed to an existence of torment, Jinn enslave their former followers, who are now bound to serve them until the Jinn either dies or dismisses them. The Jinn serve as a dark reminder of the devastation caused by the unrighting, a shadow of what the gods once were.